If you are new to my channel, I hope you'll hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. And I don't know if I said I'm the inventor of the Creative Feet line of sewing machine products, and that is what I'm going to use today. I'm going to use our Sequins and ribbon foot. It's 7 a.m. on Friday. So I should say good morning to you from now on. Maybe that's why I felt like saying good morning so many times. Okay, I had some jelly roll pieces already ready, because what is there involved in a jelly roll? You just unroll it and then you're ready to piece it together. Some of these fabrics that you buy, though, have pinked edges, and so you would want to cut off those pinked edges for this, because we are going to construct this in a different way than you would normally. Instead of putting right sides together, sewing a 1/4 inch seam allowance and folding it over, and then maybe adding a trim, we're going to actually skip the 1/4 inch seam allowance altogether and use the actual sewing of the trim as the seam allowance. And it's actually a very secure way of making what to some of you may seem like a crazy quilt. A crazy quilt would be done with a variety of different trims, and sometimes you do some hand embroidery. Of course, with our decorative stitches on our machine, we can do decorative stitches on our sewing machine, and I've chosen to keep it simple today for my mental sake. I have some satin ribbons that look in the right color scheme of this jelly roll that I have. Don't you think? I don't know. I think it's easier to just do this today. Let's see. I think maybe this, because we're going to use colored threads too to accentuate it. Maybe these 3 today. Or should I keep it into the jewel tones and do these 3 today? Thank you, Fiona and Amy. Sequins and ribbon foot is a lot of fun if you use it. You gotta open it though. And it is the foot with a guide attached to it that has a uniquely shaped bottom that allows you to actually sew ribbon around in different directions too. So the principles behind this is you start with a center piece, and then mathematically the next pieces need to line up. In other words, this side of it and this side of it should be the same size as that. Otherwise it won't be square when you're finished. And maybe next week I'll turn it into a pillow so you can see how I did the piping, and you can, I don't know if you can see, let's see on this camera, that on this piping I actually have a decorative stitch that I used to attach the beads onto that heavy 1/4 inch piping. And you can do that. I also used metallic threads on this one. I still plan on filming this entire pillow, as I have it already cut out and waiting for me to film it as a lesson. So it'll probably be something I'll add to the school. I got a little bit disheveled as I ran out to the mailbox. We did not have time to get our shipment out. So I'm going to end, no matter what, at the 2-hour mark so we can still get the shipment out today, not disappoint anybody. Darn drawer never wants to stay closed. You like the bright colors, Amy? So do I. So when we put trim into this guide, we just insert it like that. And you can see the trim is locked in place left and right. And it also brings the trim down, and the base of the foot and the guide actually hold the ribbon down. If you ever tried to sew ribbon before, and when the needle lifted up out of the ribbon, it lifted the ribbon, that does not happen with my Sequins and ribbon foot, so you're not going to have to worry about that. And if you want to use different size trims, we also have accessories for this foot. Where's my thingy? We have 2 different guides for it. So it's 1 foot base with the screw assembly that allows you to adjust the guide in different positions underneath the needle. And with these 4 different openings, you can sew a wide variety of different yarns and sequins and rickrack and ribbon. Each of the creative feet, if you're not familiar with our products, fit all sewing machines. All you need is a zigzag stitch. We give you adapters that attach onto the feet. And that turns this foot into whichever ankle size or style you need it to be. If you have a Bernina sewing machine, you have a couple options. You can use our littlest adapter. This one has a C attached to it. This is also the same one the FOF sewing machine will use. Viking Husqvarna's, you'll just slide the foot right onto your machine. Most of your Genomes will snap right on. If you have a 9mm wide machine, you'll remove the snap-on adapter, put ours on in its place, and that gives you the high shank ability for those 9mm wide Janome machines. And you can use our adapter with the old Janome feet. So if you have an old Janome that only has a 7mm wide bar, well, you can use them on your 9mm wide machine. You can also use the Bernina snap-on adapter on with our sequins and ribbon foot. And this is true of all 3 of the creative feet, by the way. And you'll notice that the zigzag opening is very wide. And what that means is that you could use up to a 20mm wide zigzag. So if you have an industrial sewing machine, you have a lot of flexibility with not only the sequins and ribbon foot, but also our pearls and piping foot. If you want to couch harder or firmer trims like rat tail cording or sew piping, see how big that opening is? That is partly why our feet fit all sewing machines. So, starting to calm down a little bit here. It's raining and it's been storming all day. We're getting, I believe, the end of Henry or Henri, depending on how you want to pronounce that hurricane. And I just noticed my sister is safe because she lives in New Jersey and they had flooding in those areas. I'm so excited to be able to spend these stressful days with you guys because I love you so much. And you actually, this show has proven to be something that takes me out of the reality of things that we might not want to face and makes me, uplift myself so that I can hopefully uplift you guys. And I just want you to know that I just really appreciate you so much. So I'm going to have to cut. And there's the tweezers I couldn't find last week. I really need to get in the habit of putting it back on here. Oh, and I found my glasses, you guys. I found them. Where'd I put them? Oh, here they are. When I switched out the sewing machines, and this one still has not had service. So we'll see how it goes. So I'm very excited. Today is my day of finding lost items. Turn my voice down a little bit in my ear. All right, so we just have to choose the fabrics we want to use. And in this one, I have 5 different fabrics. You can keep it simple. And by the way, on this one, I actually did something different. I actually quilted that fabric around the actual design. I didn't over on this section right here, but I did on this piece here. So, and here I did some strip sewing or straight line sewing, and I did an X here to add creativity to the fabric as well. So just imagine what you can do with like our Octi-Hoops. You could embroider a center piece and then piece it in using the Octi-Hoops, which I'd love to do right now, but I'm going to keep it simple today. I don't have time to do everything I want on these weekly shows. Who needs squares? Hi, Veronica. Sorry I couldn't get your presser made. It'll happen tomorrow. She chose the Bejeweled. How many of you have the Bejeweled presser? Or share which one you have if you know the name of it. So I really like this one. I didn't think I did, but I really do. And it has like a rustic background fabric. I know some of you are going, just make it purple. We don't need any of those other colors. Let's see. So right now I am planning on making pressers on Friday morning if you've been waiting to order one. I'm going to go ahead and stick with the concept that I did before and use 5 fabrics. Really, really nice to have one fabric to add the blue for. But it kind of ties in with this one a little bit. Which one should be the middle? Okay, let's see. I didn't bring any water in. I'm going to do you all a favor so I don't make the sounds of someone who's thirsty. I'm just going to grab my water, which I already poured. I just didn't carry it in here. I'll be right back. I'm back. I'm going to mute myself for a second, take a sip, and then I'll start. All right. I don't know, it looks a little blurry. Or is it just me? Do I look blurry? Hi, everybody. I'm having trouble deciding which one should be the middle, and that's just silly. So I think I'm going to just squint my eye, and the one that stands out the most will be the one in the middle. Because there's no reason to make it any more complex than that. And I'm going to cut it so that I have the ability to overlap 1/4 of an inch on all sides, and that it will end up being square, or I'm going to kind of guess and hope I'm right in my memory. I think I prefer this purple to that one. Oops, I'm not taking a break anymore. Break's over. And I think it was Veronica that brought up a technique called crumb quilting. Am I right, Veronica? May not be you. I have a lot of conversations in the week. So I'm just going to cut, and you never use the add a quarters thin side to cut with. You always flip it over and use the thick side to cut with. So this is going to be my center. And I'll bet some of you are going, I know what she's going to do. She's going to use her glue. And if you thought that, you were right. And we just need to overlap the fabric that you're going to sew next to the center. And you can overlap it if you want to be careful. You can do 1/4 inch overlap. And that will be easier with the Caterpillar Light tablet. Because you can see through the fabric to see that you are overlapped. You have the option of overlapping either way, having this fabric on top of that fabric or that fabric on top of this fabric. Either way works. I tend to keep the first piece that I lay down on the bottom and just keep layering on the top. It wasn't you, Veronica? I don't know who it was. Too many of you to keep track of now. And this is the liquid-based water-soluble stabilizer in a bottle. So you just do a little bit, put a little droplets on there and spread it out, and then lay your next piece on top. And it's what's really neat about this process is we're not going to wait for that to dry and build the whole top, which you could do if you weren't going to lay trims down. This would be easier if I only used one color ribbon. But no big deal. If I can find the foot, I have the accessory guides. Where did I put the foot? Here it is. So if I go to use the yarn, which I might, because I reserve the right to decide that I want to use yarn as well, then I would use the 1/8 inch guide for the yarn because it has the smaller openings to adapt to the thinner side of the yarn or size of the yarn. And it is easier to put ribbon inside of the guide with the foot off the machine. It may seem like a frustrating thing to take the foot on and off, but it really isn't. You can also use a double needle and sew both sides of your ribbon down at the same time. If I were going to do that, I would probably use invisible thread and just let the ribbon itself be the accent on the fabric. So you can see that these fabrics are overlapping 1/4 inch. Each fabric is in essence losing 1/4 of an inch, but we don't have to sew them together with the 1/4 inch seam allowance. Here we go. And this would be a time to choose different color threads that you may want to use. I think I'm going to reduce the amount of time that this will take by having one color of thread that complements all of the different colors. Do I have anything on the rack? I have this green that I really like, but I don't know. Green's not at all involved, and I don't think it'll show up well on the ribbon. I'm standing on the end of this thread. I don't know if my chair's on it. That's a long piece of thread. So crumb quilting, Veronica, is kind of like this, except for people sew it with a seam allowance. And they don't worry about how the pieces are shaped. They take their little pieces of fabric that they have sitting around and they just grab a piece, sew it on, and they don't worry about any particular pattern being or evolving. And in the end, you end up with a big piece of fabric that's a combination of different fabrics that you can then make into whatever you want it to be. So it's real low-key quilting or piecing. Ooh. All right, sorry for being so quiet. Just choosing my colors. I'm probably going to use 2 colors. Yeah, 1 color of ribbon would definitely not be me, and neither is 1 color of thread. I'm thinking, okay, on the purple ribbon, I should use the blue thread, but you know, honestly, when you do 1 little piece, it's only 2 inches, then you have to thread the machine again. You may want to rethink that. So I have selected 3 different colors of ribbon, and the purple will show up on all of them, not so much on the purple. Which one, I meant to say, will show up on all of them, and the greenish one will show up on all of them to some degree. So I think I'm going to use that, and this being more of my fave color than purple, I think it's a good option. I am actually kind of wearing an outfit to match. Let's see here. See if I can find the end of this thread. Now I have 3 pairs of magnifying glasses in here. Is it bothering you that my liquid-based glue's lid is off? Do you know that if you leave the lid off and you leave it upright, this does not seal itself? It'll stay open the whole time you're working on it. And then if it drops and it seals itself if it falls over. Well, as long as you don't step on it and make it ooze on your floor. It's a bad habit that I have. I will try really hard to put the lid back on, Amy. Yes, Veronica. So a lot of time we think of fabric as this is a piece of fabric. But if you take this fabric and join it together with a bunch of other pieces of fabric and then think of it as only 1 piece of fabric, well, now you can take and you can cut that into a pattern, and you could have it be a bodice on a blouse, or used for any type of application. It doesn't have to be quilting. That's why I don't really like it when we separate sewing into so many different categories that it appears as if we're all doing something different, but really we are all just sewing. And what we construct is really all sewing, just different techniques and methods, but really just sewing. And that's why I named my show Fabrically Speaking, to try to step away from what it is we're doing and in any particular project and make it all about just, hey, we're using fabric. That is a given. And it makes it a lot more relaxing too if you're not thinking you have to follow any particular protocol just because you're doing something different than someone else with your sewing machine. Taking off my shoes because I just don't sew well with them on. And I'm selecting a decorative stitch that I really like, and it's called the purl stitch. Or no, it's not. It's called the shell tuck stitch. Here, I thought I had it in my head. And I'm taking it to a 6mm width and a 3mm length. We'll see if I like it. And what you're looking for is you want to place the ribbon on the edge so that this side of the ribbon right here lines up with this side of the fabric. And I want to start close to the edge. This stitch pattern does not move in a forward and reverse manner, so it's easier to sew with it. Now before I begin, I really don't know if my needle is going to clear. Actually, I'm going to 7 millimeters. Looks like it's lining up well on the right. Come over. Moving this nut moves the trim over. I'm also going to reduce my thread tension because this is it's a very wide stitch. Whenever you maximize your zigzag width, you have a risk of the fabric tunneling if you don't stabilize it. And I didn't do anything, not even spray starch, to this fabric. Keeping my eye right here, not at the needle, which can be very distracting. In case you guys didn't know, your needle is distracting. And see how I'm not holding the ribbon at all? I just have to guide the fabric and very light touch on the fabric. Lift. And you can see how neat that stitch is. I really like it. It's a fast stitch. I'm going to stick with it, but you can go ahead and play around with all of your decorative stitches on your machine. And I'm going to cut, leaving about that much ribbon, which is about 3/8 of an inch of ribbon laying out. This is important because normally when you do a crazy quilt and you sew trim on top of fabrics, you don't do it in this manner. You end up having to sew this on after your pieces are all sewn together, and then one ribbon is supposed to hold the other ribbon down on the fabric's surface. Then when you go to stretch the fabric, the ribbon pops off and your whole crazy quilt can fall apart, which is devastating if you didn't know that. You guys familiar with crazy quilts? Have you ever seen one where all the trims are kind of dangling on the fabric because the fabric was stretched and the trim does not stretch like the fabric does? So then the thread breaks and then the trim falls off. Next step is figure out how big you want your next piece to be. So we're going to cut this one. Thinking of how I did this, you can see how I use the same fabric on both sides. I'm just going to stay with this design so I don't have to think. We got thunder, you guys. Hopefully we've been having good luck, haven't we? On not having to shut down the show from it. Where's that ruler? Here it is. And you can just take this fabric and lay it down like this to know how big the next piece should be. All right, where did I put my rotary cutter? Now I'm going to glue this piece. And if we think about it, we want to make sure that this is mathematically going to work out. So that means that this fabric needs to be on top of this fabric. If you don't know how to tell the right side and the wrong side of a batik fabric, it kind of, when you stretch across the grain, it tunnels to the wrong side. So this is the wrong side. I'm using a universal 9014 needle for this because we're going through the ribbon, and that's what you want to, well, we could, if you're going to use a decorative stitch that actually does stitch through the ribbon. And it is a non-woven material. So if you were to use a thinner needle, you might have an issue with it breaking. should you over handle your fabric, and you notice that I do not. So once again, we're using the cutter pillar, looking through the fabric to see that we have it overlapped 1/4 inch down here and up here, and you can imagine how nice this tablet is for foundation paper piecing as well. And I'm going to stick with the same ribbon, simply because I did on the last quilt or pillow top. And I am starting out like right on the edge. I do have a rotary hook sewing machine. If you have a machine where you put your bobbin into a bobbin case, come on. Come on, thread. This hand has never been the same since my shoulder surgery. So if you have a oscillating hook machine, you want to put your finger down on that thread, make sure that it doesn't come out of the needle. So I did 1 stitch and then I was able to move it back. So you can do that till you know that you swung on both sides. Once again, keep your eye focused on the ribbon's edge lining up with the fabric's edge. Don't look at that needle. And don't touch the ribbon because it makes the fabric pucker or gather. See how easy it is to do this? And you can also sew like this for garments as well, you guys. I think I already mentioned that, didn't I? I feel like just doing these colors. But see how now if you have that like that, then this fabric is just laying next to that fabric and it takes a little bit of the excitement away. Clutter. I've got clutter. Wouldn't be my show if I didn't. So once again, I'm going to count the ribbon as part of the seam allowance and go over it like that. And if you're brave, you could just put your rotary cutter down like this and just go or if you're doing crumb quilting, it really doesn't matter if your shapes are square. Somebody came up with the word crumb quilting. I like it. I will use it. But this is not. This is embellish quilting. What should I call it, you guys? It should have its own name, don't you think? So now you can see that I am going to take and place this fabric on top of the ribbon, and that is going to lock the ends of the ribbon into the actual construction of this pillow. So that will be super strong and tight in there and not able to break apart. And in this case, I'm just going to take the ruler and cut it, making sure that you're square on this end, that you don't have it tipped like this, because then you'll end up, unless you want it tipped, see how fun and magical this is? You could do this. You could go, okay, I want a triangle instead. And you could sew like that. And then you cut afterward this piece, and then you take it and you can put it over here. And the creativity on this is pretty limitless. This is something that I built at shows from every time I would show this at a show. Sometimes I combined it. This is a really neat thing. This is the blanket stitch with 2 threads through the eye of 1 needle. This is the petite machine applique done with the Satinedge Foot. And these are pieces that I sewed, and then I decided to sew those pieces in to this thing that I was building. You can see here how I can sew ribbon on a curve, which is something you can't do without our foot, or it'd be really hard to get it to not pucker. Our foot just lets it lay down. Here's a blanket stitch, which is a very common crazy quilting stitch. It does move the fabric forward and reverse, so it's a little bit harder to do only because you kind of get dizzy when you're doing it. And then here's one where I did it with rickrack. So it's really whatever you've got in your trim arsenal. So we want to make sure that this is on a straight. I need to turn the air down. All right. You could also cut this after. Make it a little bigger just for your comfort's sake. I gotta turn the air down. Whew. $242. I hear the rain. The drops are coming down, and they're coming down big. I also find that I don't have to glue on the table. I can glue right here on my machine. I'm going to pull this ribbon out, and I'm going to use purple because I feel like it. Now, to show you how you would do it if you don't want to take the foot off every time. You have fabric underneath the foot, and you slide it in, and as you slide the ribbon into the foot, take the fabric and move the fabric with the ribbon, and it'll help carry the ribbon out the back side of the foot. You feel like it's, oh, it is spring, and it's spring in Australia. And we're coming up on fall. I just took my jacket off, but I'm going to put it back on before I switch back to the front camera, I think. Maybe not. It's so hot in here. Just want to make sure I look decent. Because I'm a girl, I have my vanity. Okay, phew. Can't turn a fan on when you have cameras and stuff. Okay, here we go. Here we go. There was a time when we pretty much didn't know what all of our countries were up to at the same time. And there's something intimate about being able to know what is taking place on different parts of the globe. I feel more connected to you guys. Here we go. Boy, I say here we go a lot. Once again, make sure you have right side out. And some people don't think it matters. The needle will behave differently if you have the wrong side facing up. It's very slight, but it can cause issues. Why this is not a good idea to do up here is because it's harder to tell if you have that 1/4 inch overlap. So I'm checking on this side. Spin it around, check it on this side, and I'm pretty good at eyeballing. But remember, this is kind of like a free motion or a free form method of piecing. If I sew it this way, I can still see the edge of the fabric, but I can't see it as easily. So I'm going to sew the opposite direction. And because we have the glue, which is a water-soluble stabilizer, we don't have to rotate. All right, here we go. So when you sew strips together, and you have these jelly rolls, and you sew one strip to this one, and you go down, and if you take the next strip and you sew it down, eventually you'll end up with the bottom of your fabric all coming down at different angles, but not if you glue it with our glue. So that is a really neat feature of it, is that it locks the two fabrics together and stops them from shifting and stops that expansion that can occur when you normally do strip piecing with your jelly roll strips. So once again, if you don't make a change, you don't change your stitch pattern, then it's easier because you'll be trained to look in this spot. So the first one you do, if you use one stitch pattern for the whole thing, and keep your eye focused always right there. Tell yourself, do not touch the ribbon, do not touch the ribbon. Then you'll have a easier time on your next one. You can get more creative or more brave and see how it's coming together, you guys? Wouldn't that be a cute little wallet? So think of this as whatever you want this fabric to be when you're done. Now if I want, I could do the same fabric on this side, or I can use the same tone. Let's see what I got. So this is the same color tone, but it's a different fabric. But I didn't do that on this. I went totally different, totally different. Can do whatever I want though. I kind of like the same, so because this is the same. Now these are the same, and then I do these the same. What do you think? Think that's a good idea? Thumbs up if you like a little bit more continuity. There's a little part of my soul that said, "Oh yeah, that's more relaxing. I prefer that." And this is the same tones too, but it has like a branch. This one has more of a subtle. I think I kind of like the branch because these look like little leaves. Oh no, there's another choice. This is what's wrong with these jelly rolls. There's just too many options. This is so pretty. I want this to be used in an area where I can use a bigger piece. There we go. We'll use this one. Do any of you cut like this with stuff all over your table like that? I'm feeling better now. It's not so hot. Here we go. Another option for you is to just kind of snip it and square it off later. However you're comfortable dealing with things like this. We all are not the same. So this is right side up, and we don't put right sides together, right? Because we're overlapping our fabric. Isn't it amazing how long the glue lasts, you guys? How many of you have had one bottle for over a year? If you do a lot of binding, you'll go through more bottles of my glue. Once again, overlap it, 1/4 inch. This is the side that I cut straight, so I'm going to use that side as the side that I line up first. Very light grazing over the fabric, and then we can spin it around, and now make sure that it is overlapped 1/4 inch over here as well. And now I can square that off with the rotary cutter and ruler. And there is really no advantage of using the add 1/4 ruler for this. It's the first ruler that popped out at me. I would definitely do this in a better way. I would line up myself with my... I'm going to get this one out and use a different ruler. Where is it? Oh, there it is. There's my favorite ruler. prefer this for this type of work when I'm not using the ruler, the measurements on the actual, what is this thing called? Cutting mat. Remember, it's always better to look from above down through the ruler to see that you're lined up with your lines. Okay, now it's time to do this one. Feel free to ask questions because kind of you're getting the idea of how you build this. Not too difficult, is it? So that gives me the opportunity to answer any questions you have related to any type of sewing. Because what is sewing? Sewing is quilting. Sewing is bridal sewing. Sewing is quilting. Sewing is embroidery. Sewing is free motion quilting. Anything you do with a needle and thread. You are in the group. You are a sewer. So you see how I did a couple stitches forward and there was no stitch that went over yet. And if I don't bring it back a little bit, then there won't be enough stitch holding that ribbon down. So that's why I lift up and go back. And you have that opportunity at the beginning. And now once it makes that full stitch, my dog Chase is all scared. Watching here again. Have that conversation with yourself. Always looking at the front of the foot. Do not hold the ribbon. Do not hold the ribbon. This is possible because of the creative feet. The way I engineered this foot was to sew over rows of sequins so that you can swirl around and never have the needle lift the sequin. I started looking over here and I got off track. So I have a little bit of a chance to steer straight again. Hail is now hitting and we have thunder. Ba-boom! Summer in Arizona. I'm getting very happy about this. What do you think? Is it getting cute? I like it. Now the next one, you guys can help me pick. I almost feel like doing this again. Because we're going to go this way. Always going the side that covers the ribbon, the raw edge of the ribbon. Should I repeat? What is my other option? Yeah, I think this is it. So the objective is to never have the same fabric touch itself. Not hard to concept too. I started talking like I was Italian there for a second. Do you ever crack yourself up? All right, here we go. So I'm going to need 2 of these because we're doing alternating. I'm really liking this. All right, here we go. There we go again, saying here we go. I got a whole bunch of canvases that arrived to my house. A bunch of small ones so that I can paint more paintings. Control myself, not paint gigantic paintings, because I tend to paint large canvases. Getting the cameras all set up so I can start teaching you how to paint as well. Do you like those options? You like the balance of having the alternating? Oh, yes. Oh, I like that. I love agreement. And now we haven't used one of the color ribbons, so now I'm going to use the next color ribbon. Pink. I'm not going to change my mind, even though everything in me is going, look for another color. Because I do have like a darker pink. I'm going to stick with what I did. Okay, I'm going to glue both of these down. And feel free to ask questions if you have any. And if you're new to my channel, I'm Clare Rowley, and I'm the inventor of the foot that you see me using. This is the Sequins and Ribbon foot that you find at creativefeet.com. It fits all sewing machines. And this is our liquid-based glue that I'm going to use to secure these fabrics. If you like what you're seeing, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you've yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so today so you don't miss out on any of our live episodes of Fabrically Speaking Live. And that's what you're watching today. I air every Thursday at 2 Mountain Standard Time. And when we hit Halloween, I do not change my clock. You change yours. So if you subscribe to my channel and you hit the bell and you ask it to tell you, to notify you whenever I upload anything, then you won't miss out when the time changes for you. If you're not in Arizona, like Better Days is, she's in Arizona, so we don't have to worry about it. We're always the same time, but not you guys. Anybody new popping in? Hi, Tina. Jess and Betty, hi, welcome from Kentucky. And Sharon, nice to see you guys in the chat. You've had your liquid-based glue for years, so it hasn't even lasted, I mean, it's gone past a year. I had one customer that uses 10 bottles of glue a year, at least. But she puts binding on quilts for a living. She actually called me up and she goes, oh my God, thank you for the raise. It used to take me months to do what I do in a day. She did, what did she say? She bound 15 quilts in one afternoon. So what she did was she got the gluing done for the first part of the day, and then the next day she quilted them all in one, or hand sewed the binding on by machine with the Satinedge Foot, as you guys know if you've seen my binding video. Let's see. All right, I'm going to get back to sewing. You guys keep chatting with each other. I love seeing that you guys are getting to know one another. All right, here we go. Here we go. Whoops. Okay, well now you can see better. So notice I don't even worry about how I cut the ribbon. I can try to stay a little bit consistent, but I shouldn't have cut that one so that it was right on the edge. I should have had it stick out a little bit. To make sure it won't shift on me, I'm going to take the glue and put it below the ribbon. Just a little drop to keep it from lifting up. Do a little, I always think a little dab will do you. What's that, the sour cream commercial? So the reason I spread it out is so that it dries quicker, and that there isn't one big drop that might dry a little bit harder for the needle to go through. If you don't have a lit surface, you just use your actual tablet or your mat. I think that's why I have a hard time saying cutting mat now, because this is a tablet and the mat is on it. Then you go on this side and you make sure that you're 1/4 inch on this side. Isn't that nice? So instead of having to steer for a 1/4 inch, you just overlap it 1/4 inch. I'm trying to think of what I'm going to use this for now. Dot, 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 dot. If you're not familiar with the liquid-based glue, it's water-soluble stabilizer in a bottle, available at creativefeet.com. I did tag our website I think I pinned it. I may not have pinned it. It was the first comment in the chat. And also my free online school, Create with Clare Rowley, is there. Make sure you don't just join the school, that you actually go through the trouble of creating a profile and check to make sure that you are set to receive notifications, or you're going to miss out on things like being reminded of today's show. Are any of you only set up to be reminded for the show from the school? So making sure it's a 1/4 inch there. All right, next color ribbon is the pink. Should I do that? I'm gonna grab the other pink. Ow. Is that the same? It is the same. It looked different up there. Now it's getting cold in here. I got the air conditioner on. Now some of you might be tempted to cut your ribbon to size, but you'll waste ribbon if you do that. Fiona, you lost someone too? Okay, I'll catch up with you later. Once again, if you want to not take the foot off, you just make sure there's fabric beneath the foot and kind of move it as you're pushing the ribbon through. Always sewing with on the fabric that's on top of the other is more stable or easier, because then you can guide easier with the edge of the ribbon. Once again, we're going to just do 1 stitch, and then you can see how it is zigzagging over. So I'm going there. Watching right there. Ignore everything else. Let me see if I can turn the sewing machine so you can get a better idea of what it'll look like for you. Of course, now I can't see it all, so. So keeping my eye on the front of the foot. Do not watch the needle. Ignore the needle. The needle does not exist. Notice your hands do not have to hold the ribbon. In fact, if you hold the ribbon, because this is actually woven kind of like original denim blue jean. Sorry about that. That the needle has a hard time going through that weave because it's an overlapping, crisscrossing weave. It's what makes it not stretch. And if you've ever tried to bend ribbon, you know that it kind of puckers or flips over instead. If you remind me, I'll sew a circle with ribbon, show you how to do it. You can do it with our foot. You'll have a better result if you spray starch your fabrics before you begin. I did not here. Just pulled it out of the drawer, out of my jelly roll fabric drawer. When they cut this, they didn't cut it very well, did they? Why is that? And now we go on this side. The ribbon was wrong side up, and it's my fault. I did that in the beginning. It's not going to, it's like, nope, not flipping over. I'm designed to keep control of that ribbon. There we go. It's always my goal to not waste. So I pull back on the ribbon to try to just have a minimal amount extending past the base of the foot. But you do want to have it be beneath the foot, or it can lift up on you and come out. once again to stitch, move back. I cannot see, so I'm going to have to move it here in a minute. Get to where I can see it again. What do you mean you're real? Did you guys meet one another? I don't understand. Did somebody think you weren't real, Better Days? Are you going to go to that show down in Scottsdale, Amy? Amy is Better Days, in case you guys are new to the feed. It's the Rusty Barn, which is the Quilt Craft and Sew Expo. They're having a show in Scottsdale. I am not going to be attending any shows until next year at the earliest. And I'm likely to just do events because if you've ever seen me at a show, you know I'm surrounded by you guys, and I'm just not feeling like I should take that chance. Yes, you can actually use this for stained glass quilts as well. Good thought on that, Betty. Unless Jess is the one watching, because a lot of times there's a lot of men that hide the fact that they sew. So if you want to do the stained glass quilts and you have the fusible tubing, well, you don't need it to be fusible. And you can use a double needle and sew both sides down, and you can do Celtic quilt designs. It's something I haven't shown you guys yet. I should do that, huh? So you can use black ribbons. You can use a grosgrain ribbon, has more of a flexibility to it. You can also use a black yarn and stitch it on with a black thread and create that stained glass appearance as well. And that's super easy because yarn with our foot is just super easy. I have to put the mic up when I'm sewing and down when I'm talking face to face to you guys. You guys are all very special. All right, next fabric. And right now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, no, 5. It's just very subtle that I have 5. I'm thinking we need another purple now. I don't know if I have. Yeah, I do have more than one purple. That's the purple I originally used. So I'm going to use the same tone, but this is what's so cool about these jelly rolls is that they are tonally compatible to be used in a quilt together. If you didn't know that already. And this is a jelly roll for any of you that are not familiar with it. So somebody takes the time to pick out a bunch of different fabrics that go together well, and then they cut them into these 2.5-inch strips that we can then create different fabric pieces or segments to use in bags and quilts and pillows and garments, however you would like, or whatever you want to make your jelly roll into. And I couldn't resist. I bought 2 of the same jelly rolls, and I'm still not done using this jelly roll. I've created quite a bit with it already. Are any of you addicted to jelly rolls? How many jelly rolls do you have that you have not used? Oh, you're going to use the quilt. I want to use the quilt highlights. I was tempted, but I already did that recently. Let's see here. So you can see this is the same tone as this, but this has the little leaps. The only one that I haven't used, is this one, but I don't like how it goes. So see, the concept's pretty simple, isn't it, you guys? It's starting to get bigger than my area that's cleared. This is no pressure. Easy peasy, relaxing. It's very low stress. So I put that piece completely beneath this. That way I could line it up. And this is how I would do it if I didn't have this lit surface that I turn off because it's hard for you guys to see with the camera. Here we go. There we go. Here we go. One more. One time I did this and it didn't end up square, and so this is why I do these things, so that you can see how to end up with it square. You might even feel a little out of control constructing a quilt this way when if you've had to, you know, cut everything precisely before, and it might feel too easy, a little bit stressful because you're not having to think so much. And isn't that fun? For those of you who are used to always being more in control of things, remember, it'll bow to the wrong side. Time to glue. Here we go. I think that would be really neat to put a jelly roll to create a sleeve like that. That's actually really fun. Wearable art is what you're talking about. And this makes wearable art a lot easier as well, being able to join things together. You can even try on a garment using this to pin it together before you actually sew it. I put buttons in place before, and keeps them from becoming unbuttoned from something that someone else made and they made the buttonholes too big. It's like it was there, now it's gone. No, it's not. It's still, now it's on the surface. And once again, we're going to make sure we're 1/4 inch on both ends. You have time to manipulate it. So I definitely have a 1/4 inch here. Now spin it around. Keep my finger there to anchor it because I don't have it adhered at all the way down. It's loose. Make sure I can see the 1/4 inch here. And what you're looking for is that this fabric and this fabric overlap a 1/4 inch. Now it's held in place and we do the next one. Almost done, you guys. See how fast this comes together? This is in real time. So last night I had, for those of you who know that, I had an owl visit me last year. He stayed for a couple weeks on and off. He would leave and come back, and last night he visited me again with a friend, and they kept me up for like an hour cooing, and it almost sounded like the baby, and like there was a mother, like maybe it's the father. I don't know. I felt like it was a boy owl. I even named him Mr. Owlsy. And he hung around for quite a while last night. Could hear the hoo hoo, and then there was a ah, like. I was like, I have to teach tomorrow. You cannot be keeping me awake. Then when they finally stopped their little party in the backyard, which I filmed, I went outside in the dark and filmed it and shared it on my Facebook page. Then Tinkerbell started sneezing, and then Chase started snoring. So they were snoring and sneezing. Then Tink stopped sneezing, and Chase continued to snore. And so I don't know really how much sleep I got last night. But it was definitely entertaining. Sometimes you just got to roll with it. All right. Now I need to change to the green ribbon. That's blue. Where is it? It's more of a teal green. Amy, my lid is all the way now rolled on the floor. It's like 3 feet from me. Does it drive you nuts? At shows, people would go and try to clean up my table because at shows I throw fabric. You know, I sew a sample and I throw it and I end up with a huge pile and you can't even see the table by the end of the day. But there's always these people that are like, oh, this is really stressful. Can I straighten up your table? And I'd be like, if you have to. And after they would leave, I'd go and throw it all out again so everyone could grab it. I could use someone who likes to clean after each week. All right, here we go. Back to the sewing machine. Isn't it nice, you guys? It's so nice. And it is satin ribbon, so when I touch it, I can feel it's rougher on that side than it is on this side. So this is the top. Something else just fell on the floor. I drop a lot of things each week. So believe it or not, my glasses were underneath this machine where I put it. Somehow they survived. Need my glasses. Should be able to find it with 3 pairs in here. Okay, it's not sticking out enough in the back. There we go. Ooh, purple thread hiding here. Going, ooh. You were going to use me, weren't you? No, I changed my mind. Sorry, purple thread. But it would be so much nicer on this green right now. I'm not going to do it. It takes me too long to change the threading. And I got to end on time tonight. Another one would be really cool is metallic thread. Whoops. Keep my eye. Focus there. Don't touch the ribbon. Don't touch the ribbon. Elbows down, shoulders relaxed. Elbows down, shoulders relaxed. Don't hold the ribbon. And I just kind of cradling the fabric like this, putting my hand underneath it as it hangs off the side of the sewing machine, extending the bed of my machine because I don't have an extension right here. I could lower my machine, but this machine's too big for this table, and there's no way I was getting a new table just because I got a machine that was too big for it. So this is me, how I'm sewing with it. Everything is in a loose, relaxed posture. Keeping my eye focused there, not at the needle. And I'm getting to a place where I can't see, so I can actually move the ribbon out of the way so that I can now look at the guide and line it up. Whichever one works better for you. Try not to waste thread or ribbon. These are crafty scissors, or like paper scissors. They just appeared on the table. I don't know where they came from. And on the other side. Make sure you keep that right side up. You could use someone that likes to clean your apartment. Ditto. My daughter's all, I have a friend that cleans. You should just have her come over. And I'm like, no, I'd have to clean before I had her come over. Just so I would not worry about certain things that may not look like trash, you know, getting thrown away. So don't touch the ribbon. When they were children, I had a nanny as I traveled. It was cool. I'd come home. All the laundry was done, put away. She would take my clothes after I got back and do my laundry. She was so sweet. So she actually lived with us for a little while. It was very nice. She was so sweet. Think about her from time to time. So what's cool about this is you can just keep adding and make this as big as you want. You could end up with a quilt. Starting in the middle, working your way out. I don't have a pillow form this small. I don't know if I want it to be a pillow. I think I might want it to be another place to put a pot or maybe another. So the next one would be this, go around again. So if I go around again, I have a rectangle. In order to have it square, I have to commit to doing this side and another on this side, and then it will be square. So if you want a rectangle, you could just now continue to only build on one side, kind of like I did here. So you can just keep making something really long. Keep thinking of Halloween when I see this. It must have been Halloween time when I made this. What time is it? 3:23. We have time. I like to cut my own jelly roll kind of thing too. Especially when I find a fabric that I love so much that I buy the whole bolts. And I'm having a moment of silence. It's not a very common state for me to be in. There we go. Oops, that fell on the floor. Kind of pulled on this. Here we go. It'd be really neat to have it be black and then three other and alternate and have more black on there. I guess because you mentioned that stained glass quilt that made me think that way. All right, so since it's getting so big, I'm going to just cut it bigger so I don't have to be perfect until afterward. Same thing here, except for this one, to be correct, I need to switch. So this being this one being this one, and that one being this one. Yes, Amy, you could absolutely do this with the quilt highlights. I don't know where I put mine. By the way, we do have that pink in Fiona. And we are, I know I've been saying this for a while, but we're about to open the inks. Because of the issues with the supply chain in manufacturing, when we added the inks, we thought they'd be here in a week and a half, and we just got in more, but we're still short 6 colors after this. So know that I haven't been just toying with you on those. And I was going to do it. I have these 2 tank tops that I want to ink or paint, I should say. And the paints that we have are really soft, so you can't tell that they're paint. Some of them, they actually do put inks on the label, and some they say textile paint. So basically, just kind of like sewing. When you sew, whether it's a hand sewing needle or a sewing machine, you're sewing no matter what media you're using. And when you paint or ink on fabric, you're essentially painting with ink. When you dye fabric, you dip it. So it can be confusing because when I first started playing around with it, I was using inks. But they're paint, and they're just paint that's consistency that is like ink, and it behaves like ink. And then there are real inks on top of it. And I found that the real ink did not hold. It wasn't as good a color fastness as the ones that we carry at Creative Feet. So they're actually on our site, and then we're going to hit the live button, and then it'll pop up. It should happen today. If not today, tomorrow, because the inks arrived, as I said. Okay, feels like a sauna. Whew. I'm cutting it a little bit big, just in case I'm not being really accurate. Close that blade. Next color ribbon is purple. Did any of you go, yay, when you heard me say purple? What do you think, guys? Looking pretty? I should really steam it and put some spray starch. It'll take some of the sloppiness away because I didn't iron this at all. It was all just crumpled up in a drawer. It's that free-spirited process. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. It's the first time watching my channel, Judith? This is our sequins and ribbon foot. And it has a tube that won't let your ribbon get out of the way of the needle. And see how it also is the right size width-wise for this ribbon. It will hold it in place beneath, and that's why you don't see me hold it. So when the needle is dancing around there, it's actually holding it down too on the fabric, so your needle won't lift up the ribbon. And welcome to my channel, Judith. Everybody give her a warm welcome. I'm the inventor of this foot. I invented it for a fashion designer when I was 20 years old. I'm now 58, so it's been around a long time. Another option is we have guides, additional guides for it, which make it so you can sew all different sizes, all different widths of rickrack, ribbon, yarns, sequins, and any type of upholstery braid that you find in your fabric stores. So now when you look at trim in the store, it's something you can sew on with the sewing machine instead of having to figure out other ways of doing it. And this is what I call embellish piecing, because you're embellishing the fabric as you're piecing it together, and you're doing so in a manner that locks the ribbon or the trim into the seam so they cannot come apart. So you can use this on a quilt, you could use this on a pillow, and you don't have to worry about the ribbon popping off, because ribbon doesn't stretch and your fabric does, and that's what makes crazy quilts fall apart, is because people piece them together, and then they sew the ribbons, and the ribbon holds the ribbon down, and that ribbon holds that ribbon down. It's just not strong enough. So this is a really, really strong method of piecing and using the liquid-based glue to hold the fabrics together. It's a temporary water-soluble stabilizer, and it keeps the fabrics from shifting and stretching and expanding as you sew, making it even easier. So once again, welcome to Fabrically Speaking Live. This is my weekly show. I also have a channel with a lot of other video content on there. And I have a free online school that is the first post in the chat, and there's a link there. At the end of the video, once we're not live anymore, then you'll see the see more, and there's like a little arrow underneath the video, and that's where you'll find all the links for all the different products. But you'll find this at creativefeet.com. In other words, this is the foot for your sewing machine. And so creativefeet.com. And this is sequins and ribbon. We have 3 feet. The 3 feet combined do 88 different things and fit all sewing machines. So you don't have to worry. Your machine can use it too. In order to sew ribbon, you need a zigzag stitch. If you used it with like a featherweight machine, you could sew 1 row of a straight stitch going down the ribbon. And that's simply because the sewing machine is limited. So if you have a decorative stitch, or if you have a zigzag stitch, you could use a zigzag stitch and you can zigzag down the ribbon. If you have decorative stitches, well, this is just like a reason to use them. If you've got decorative stitches and you've never used them, this is a fun reason to explore the different stitches on your sewing machine. And here we go. Yeah, don't be shy in the chat, you guys. I try to keep my eye on it, and if any of you know that I didn't answer someone's question, please go, hey, Claire, you didn't answer so-and-so's question. Because I can only watch when I'm not watching what I'm doing. Watching right there, sew a stitch. Now you should always make sure your needle thread is beneath the toe on the foot and to the left, because there's nothing to the right. Put your finger down on the needle thread only. Do not worry about your bobbin thread. You shouldn't be grabbing it. It causes problems when you do. And then as we go, watching the front side right here, keeping the ribbon lined up with the fabric, but not doing so by holding the ribbon. The foot has the ribbon held in place for you. So it's a finger here and a finger there. And when you sew with all of our products, you should keep your elbows down on the table and the machine. Don't lift your arms while you sew. So if you've ever wished you could put your arms down when you're sewing, now you can and should. It's better for your body. You'll have more energy. You'll be able to sew for a longer period of times without your muscles getting sore. So what I do to support the fabric is I put my hand beneath it and kind of become an extra table, but I do so with my elbow down. That way I'm not straining this muscle group right here, and watching the front side of the ribbon, keeping those two things lined up with one another, but not having to do so with my nose down at the machine. Instead, I'm sitting with my face the distance it is that I read, where you're in focus. Watching right there, ignore the needle. See how the ribbon is kind of coming out to the side. You can even do that so that you can use the guide instead of the ribbon to guide right on the edge. And the foot won't let that ribbon misbehave. It just takes control of it, allowing you to only guide your fabric. Sequins and ribbon foot is a fun foot, and the base of it is uniquely designed so you can spin around in circles with yarn. And this is the original couching foot. When I say original, I designed it when I was 20. I'm 58 years old. It's been around a long time. All of the Creative Feet are warranted for life, even if your dog chews it up. As long as he spits it out, we give you a new foot. No questions asked. Oh, I gotta do the next side. Just kind of want you to see. It'd be kind of a nice bag. But now I'm going to, after I sew the the ribbon on this side. I'm going to go ahead and do another one, and it'll be square again. So it's easy, right? You guys thinking this is easy? I got to iron it too. It's starting to bug me. All right, next piece and 2 more, and then I'm going to end because I have to today. Well, I'm ending at 4. We'll see how long it takes. Unless you guys want me to show you how I can sew around a curved piece. And I can save the rest of this for when I'm not live. One stitch and I hop back. Because I really want this to be stitched as close to the edge as I can. That'll keep the ribbon from not being held well. When I do the next piece of fabric, ignore the sewing machine needle. That's funny because I say I'm leaving at 4, but I'm not leaving. I'm just leaving the live. Zoom, zoom, zoom. And the stitch that you're seeing me use is the shell tuck stitch. A lot of you have this stitch. It was one of the earliest stitches invented by the sewing machine companies. They designed it for lingerie. So that it would create that little, like a little shell type of hem. It does a stitch off the side to the right. Instead of like the blanket stitch that does a stitch off to the left, this one does a stitch off to the right. However, with the blanket stitch goes forward and reverse. It goes back, forward, over, and it does a lot of like kneading dough. It's harder on the fabric than the shell tuck stitch. But when you're done, it ends up having a similar look to the blanket stitch, but a lot easier on the fabric. Less aggressive, faster to sew. Everything about it is easier. But it points the opposite direction. So if you were going to want to use the shell tuck stitch to use in place of a blanket stitch, your machine must be able to actually flip the stitch from pointing to that direction to pointing in this direction. $1993, Marilyn. Well, hello. 1993. 1989. 1990 was the first year I did International Quilt Festival. And so I did just have somebody that I spoke with that bought them that year. We had a huge line of people in our booth because there was no foot that guided you at that time. Sewing machine companies hadn't started copying me yet. Chase is down there wagging his tail. It's like they know when it's almost 4. They both start getting excited. Mom's almost done, I can tell. So do you still have the same feet? Because in 1993, they were not the design they are today. And we can talk about exchanging them for the new style if you did not already switch. I love your last name, Story. Okay. Next ribbon is the pink. I'm ending with the pink. So remember, Fiona, it's $50 and then, or it's $49 and then it's free shipping in the United States or up to $15 in shipping international. So you might want to make it count. Oh, I just rolled it up. Wrong one. Trying to think of what else I wanted to show you. What fabric am I ending with? I'm ending with the center fabric. I'm happy about that. I hope I have enough fabric because it's the one that I was repeating. I may not be able to. Just shy of it. I don't know. I might have some more of this in my drawer. Let's see. No. This is another jelly roll that I didn't finish from Christmas. See how elegant that would be? Sorry, fabric. I'm not opening that jelly roll for this. Just not gonna do it. Huh. Dilemma. Does it really matter if I open the jelly roll? Just want to see how close it is to not enough. To there, and I'm that close to having enough. Ah. I'm just gonna look on here and see if there's anything that I could use. I'm opening up the other jelly roll. I like it too much not to finish it. They only gave one. No wonder I ran out. They gave a couple of the other ones. Now what am I going to do with all that? It's unrolled. Do you guys have a method of keeping your jelly rolls once you unroll them? I've not been successful. I usually just pull them out and hang them up on something. I made a whole bunch of placemats out of this. Ooh, this one's pretty. I don't remember this one. Look at that, you guys. Isn't that one beautiful? I would have liked a lot more of that one. So no wonder I didn't have enough. They only gave you one piece of that one. And they did add, I think. Maybe not. Maybe they're all different. It seemed like a lot of money when I bought it, but it's gone a long way. Several years. What's your solution for an unrolled jelly roll, you guys? Do you try rolling it back up again? Oh no, now I'm gonna have to use it. Okay, well, at least now it'll be neat and tidy. And I could finish this. Roll it back up. Is that really what you do, Tina? You just got the ink? You're going to love the ink. Do you see the fish, Veronica? See the fish? I use the inks for that. All right. I can't wait to release the video on the fish because I haven't done that yet. Part of it's going to be educational and part of it's going to just be, you can just sit there and listen to music and watch me ink it. It's 12 hours that it took to ink that or paint it, whatever you want to call that. Now it's going to be a square pillow again or whatever. Ziploc bags. They're handy, aren't they? All right, time to glue. I'm going to do a curved piece so you can see how to sew ribbon in a curve. if you do the drunkard's path, you can actually do drunkard's path and piece, or after you've pieced the curve, you can actually sew over that. I may even have a, do I? Look at that. I have a drunkard's path piece sewn together. And my Satinedge Foot is the one that sews perfect 1/4 inch seam allowances even on curves. That foot I designed for a blind sewer. And blind sewers also use this. My girlfriend just called. She doesn't remember the show is on Thursday. Here we go. In fact, I could just stop doing this and sew the curve now that you have the idea. This is getting boring. Me doing the same thing over and over again. I don't want to cheat you out of seeing the curve now that I've mentioned it. So make sure you subscribe to my channel and that you hit the like or hit the bell and then tell it. And if you've already subscribed to my channel and you're not getting notified when I go live, then you probably didn't hit the notification button, or you turned off notifications altogether on your computer or your phone. Oh gosh, I really like this fabric. I wish there was more of it. It's the one I didn't think I liked at all, and I think I like it a lot. Dot, dot, dot. And I'm going to show you something here. So you see how this isn't even cut right? And I can still overlap it. And I can trim that excess away afterward. You can do that by measuring the distance from the edge of the ribbon to there. But it is safer to trim it down to the 1/4, so it lines up. Easier on your brain, I think. To trim as you go. Whoops. And until you put your finger down and slide it, it doesn't stay. It allows you to adjust it until you have it perfect all the way down. Whoops. There we go. It's just getting too big for my surface. What do you guys think? Is that awesome or what? Imagine if I used lace and each piece had a piece of lace in between. And any kind of trim that you have. And if you just walked in, or if you just walked in, this is it as a Christmas pillow. So any holiday, and notice it's an E. So if you plan and you had these fabrics, and you planned, you could do a letter for someone. You could do an O if they have last name is an O. So think about that as well, with the flexibility of building it as you go without having to have a plan to begin with. It makes it so much easier. So now I'm going to use the pink. Am I right? Yeah, I'm right. Here we go. Here we go. I need to make a song. So if you've come in a little bit late, and remember this is live, but it's going to be left on my channel under the Fabrically Speaking Live playlist. So you can start at the beginning and rewatch it. I forgot what I was going to say. And you'll find that happens when I'm live. Watching right here. Do not touch the ribbon. Notice my hands are not holding the ribbon. Light touch on the fabric, and my other hand is beneath the main part of the fabric, just lifting it up to keep it from getting stuck on the machine. Elbows down, shoulders relaxed. That's my mantra. On all of the sewing that you do with my products, you should be able to put your elbows down and rest the upper body muscles, and you can sew longer as a result. So I'll sew a little bit so you can see my posture. And notice that I'm not like this. So if you're used to getting your face really close to your work, you can't see the needle move. So you really shouldn't be trying to watch it. Each of my products allow you to take your focus off the needle and look at something in front of the needle. And that gives you a moment or a few seconds at least to adjust. If you're looking at the needle, you're looking at where it is happening, and it is too late to adjust. So always looking in front of where you're going. Just like when you walk, you look where you're going and you walk to it. You don't look at your feet, because if you look at your feet, you can fall over. So everything is designed to be ergonomic, to keep you in a healthy posture, and to ensure that you have better quality sewing. Wear your glasses if you need them. And I am sitting upright. Very, very light hold. I have this is what I call a scissor hold. I put the fabrics between my index finger and my middle finger and kind of use them as a little bit of a guide. This is a boundary and this is a boundary, so it's kind of like the guide on the foot, except for it's my fingers. And that allows me to move to the left, move to the right if I need to. Elbows down, shoulders relaxed. Make sure nothing's in your way. And zoom, zoom, zoom. You know, once you know your hands are in the right position, they become a giant guide. And then the foot is guiding the ribbon the same way. Whoops, I looked at the camera. So there's what happens when you don't look where you should. Oh man, I made a mistake. It was almost perfect. Darn it. It's going to be really subtle though, but you can see that's my one time not being on the edge. I can go in there and pull the threads out of that fabric right there, and then no one will see that mistake. Rather than trying to remove all that decorative stitching only to try to line it up again, cut down just to there and then start from there. Don't ever bother with that. My son's like, you should make mistakes on purpose so people see how you deal with it. I'm like, well, I prefer to be perfect, Vince. There we go. And of course, you cannot be perfect, so you have to accept that before you do anything, don't you? Before you walk out of your room. And the foot is what makes me so good. It's not some magic trick that I'm doing. The trick is to not touch the fabric so much. This is a normal new sewer posture. Grabbing the fabric and stretching it in both directions, trying to keep it taut while you sew. And that can cause all kinds of problems with your sewing machine, with breaking needles and damaging the hook of your sewing machine, in addition to stretching out your fabric and not ending up with the right size when you're done, even though you cut it perfect. And since these jelly rolls are supposed to be perfect 2.5-inch strips, if they don't end up mathematically correct in their width as you go, that's because you didn't glue it straight. Whoops, I made a mistake again. Let me finish this. I'm getting tired, and it is almost 4. There we go. And now it's square again. So I'm going to do a Drunkard's Path curve ribbon sewing. Let's see. I don't know. Should I do pink? What was my other option? Oh, I have that teal. Where'd you go? Do you guys see it? I know sometimes you guys see it and you tell me later and go, I was telling you it was over on the left side, but you couldn't hear me. I'm going to use teal. For someone who doesn't really do a lot of pink, this is a lot of pink for me. But it's kind of not pink because there's purple mixed in with the pinks. So if you've ever wanted to sew ribbon around on a curve, you know that ribbon doesn't bend. It flips. So I'm trying to get it to arch, and you can see that it will not arch. In fact, there was a class taught where people would go like this, and then they went like this, and then like this, and this is how they formed a heart, and it was taught, I think, at International Quilt Festival back in the day. So the sequins and ribbon foot is kind of like magic, because when you use it, the guide is in front of the needle. So if your focus is on the front of the guide and the ribbon is on the edge, then you know that once it hits the needle, it's going to be lined up properly. So you get to have like a preview of where your needle is going to stitch. It's just the right distance from the needle to the front of the foot to give you the ability to anticipate and to bend unbendable ribbon. Same as I did before. I have the foot aligned so that this stitch that I'm using, and it's based on the stitch that you're using and the width of the stitch, is lined up with the side of the ribbon. Oops. What did I just... No, I don't want to memorize anything. Just my machine's too smart for me. Sorry, I'm readjusting the machine so you can see better. Try to give you perspective that you would have. All right. So my focus is once again going to be on the side of the foot right here and try to keep the ribbon lined up on the edge of the fabric that sits higher. And just so you can see, it is a 1/4 inch seam allowance. This was done using the dies that we have on creativefeet.com for cutting a perfect Drunkard's Path. And then the Satinedge Foot was used to sew that in. And there was no pins and no glue used. And it's a perfect 1/4 inch. It's one of our videos you can watch on my YouTube channel, how to sew curved piecing. Because it doesn't always have to be Drunkard's Path. I gotta put my glasses on. I'm gonna try to do this without getting in the way of the camera. I'm way off to the side here. I may have to move it. Yeah, I have to move it a little bit. Okay, so watching. My machine's not going. Why isn't it going? Unplug it. I moved the machine so you could see, and then I unplugged the machine. Okay, so as I'm sewing, I'm looking here, and I'm able to turn just at the right time to bend it just a little bit. So I'm actually manipulating the fabric, not the ribbon. The ribbon is locked in place. It has no option. If your curve gets too intense, if you're trying to make like a heart, then you can adjust the nut and move the ribbon, bending the ribbon so that it's once again in line with the edge of the fabric. And I'm really not where I can see. Let's see if I can do it and have you see while I see. My hair just pops in there. I gotta move it. Now the microphone's in my way. And I do need to move it some more. I would have been fine if I was set up to begin with right for me. Move it over. Here we go. Don't look at the needle. Don't look at the needle. Look at the front of the foot. Look at the front of the foot. Unbendable ribbon is now bent. And it will all lay flat. This is where I actually caught the ribbon when I was making it so you could see and I couldn't. But see how nice that is? What do you think? Are you guys satisfied? Are you happy with today's show? It is 4 o'clock. It is 4:02. And that is when I'm supposed to stop, as this should be a 2-hour show, as sometimes I went actually 6 hours long to make something. I'm not doing that anymore because I get too hungry and slap happy. She got a lot of stuff. Fiona has... She shared a picture. Didn't you share a picture in the school, Fiona, of all the things that you got for your birthday? She was given a treasure trove. If I can find my quilt highlights within a second, I'll show you. I don't know where I put it. So, can't do it this week. Gotta be strict. I have to get the shipment out. I'm the delivery person today. Any last minute questions, you guys? Just to recap, this is what I made. And then this is how you can also go around curves if you wanted to make a curved pieced project. And this is without any stabilization. If I iron this, it would be beautiful. And that will take me too long. So I'm going to end it in this week's, and I usually post pictures of this week's project inside of the school for you guys to see better, because I know live the cameras are not always in focus. And this is what I do to try to find a spot where I'm smiling so I can use it for photos. Thank you for joining me for Season 2, Episode 34 of Fabrically Speaking Live, and I hope to see you next Thursday at the same time. And remember, when Halloween hits, you guys may change your clocks, but I don't. So keep that in mind. I am Mountain Standard Time, 2 o'clock, every Thursday. I've missed 2 Thursdays I needed a break on one. Can't remember what happened the other time. And with that, I love you guys so much and appreciate... Let me get this ready. I appreciate you so much. Love you guys. Mwah. See you next week. Bye.